Welcome to Energy Work and Healing. I'm Tricia George, an energy healer and intuitive guide, here to help you reconnect with your body, your energy, and your truth. This podcast is all about blending spiritual integrity with practicality, offering grounded insights, energy tools, and real conversations to support your healing journey. Whether you're just beginning or deep into your process, you are in the right place. Let's dive into this together. Welcome back to the Energy Work and Healing podcast. I'm Tricia George, and I'm glad you're here. Today, we're opening space to connect to the wisdom of the heart chakra, the center of love, compassion, forgiveness, and connection to ourselves as well as others. This is the energetic bridge where our human experience, what we're dealing with on our daily life, actually connects to our spiritual goals and aspirations. And if you've ever felt sort of closed off or overly self-protective, or just like you give and you give, but you aren't receiving anything in return, then this episode is especially for you. We're going to explore how to open and balance the heart center through energy work. And we want to use gentle, guided awareness and sort of dive into the clues so that you know when your heart chakra is out of alignment versus in alignment, and when it's in surplus versus shortage, and whether or not you're processing grief, healing, love, maybe a relationship wound, or simply longing to feel more connected and at peace. Your heart center is the key to that. It is the central space that we need to work on in regards to part of our chakra system. So take a breath, get comfortable in your chair, and let's journey into the heart where true healing begins. And the first thing we have to start talking about, and I guess it's pretty obvious, but where is it located, right? So the heart chakra is located right behind our sternum bone, right in the center, about an inch or two in front of our spine, right through that central channel. And it is the element of air. So if you think of your lungs being here and how it's pumping blood through your system, this is how you're breathing. This is air. The color of this chakra is primarily green, but for myself, I'll see it sort of turn, I'll say pink or gold as we mature, as we gain wisdom in our heart chakra region through relationships and just wisdom and knowledge. It will actually change colors to more of a pink or gold tone, but typically you're going to see it in a green state. I like to use the idea of grass green. So when we have that kind of concept, we can understand a little bit better where we're operating based on the color frequency you might see. And this center, so this chakra center, serves as the portal. And this portal is the connection between your upper and lower chakras. So what are our lower chakras? If we just remember back to the last few episodes, right? The first, second, and third chakras all deal with survival on the earth plane. So it's all the earthly experiences that we're going through in a day-to-day life, where beyond the fourth, right, our heart chakra, is all our higher chakras. So this is connecting us to universal source energy, cosmic energy, spirit, creator, God, divine, supreme being, whatever you want to call it. But that's where we're actually merging two energies together and trying our best to sort of operate from our heart center. And when we operate from this center, we're coming from a vibration of love, which is approximately 500 hertz. So that provides us with a sense of inner balance, cohesiveness, and sort of a sense of uniformity within our energetic field, right? That dwells around us. And that field is for our spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional bodies, right? We have 4 different bodies that we're always working with and engaging with, but we tend to typically forget about the spiritual. So in this whole course, what I'm really trying to teach you here through all these episodes and all my speeches and all my talking is how can we integrate spirituality into our day-to-day life that's connecting it to the physical, mental, and emotional bodies, right? We're trying to bring everything together so we can be a complete whole human being. And we need to understand that from our birth, right, from when we're born, we are immediately being programmed by our caregivers, our loved ones, our parents, our siblings, our teachers. We're constantly being instilled with different programs. And through those programs, we're actually learning how to give love or how to receive love. And many times we're taught that love unfortunately comes with a set of conditions or programs where there's something that someone needs from you in order for you to get or obtain love. It becomes a sort of conduit in the sense that it's all transferable, right? Just like money, everything's got a transfer rate. So how much do you have to do in order to receive love from somebody? Or can that person just give you unconditional love? So we all operate from various love languages based on our upbringing. And it's not until we get a little bit older and more mature in our relationship space that we begin to realize, like, hey, I can dictate my own love language. And it doesn't have to be based on what I was taught, what I was programmed or conditioned to believe. And I can actually have my own space and my own information. That way I can share my love with others and honor myself, right? So we're allowing ourselves permission to embrace love, to live with a loving heart, with our heart open instead of closed. And we're recognizing that we are innately meant to love as human beings. This is how we're learning. And the first love that we need to really understand and comprehend is the love we have for ourselves. We need to feel whole here. And whether it's whole here within your auric field, whole in your physical body, whole in your mind, you want to feel wholeness because you're working on transforming yourself. You're changing, you're evolving, and you're growing. And when we transform through love and provide love for ourselves through self care, compassion, grace, patience, forgiveness, then we have the opportunity to actually nourish and nurture our spirit and our soul. That in turn allows our heart to soften and gives us permission to actually receive all of life's experiences and really have them. Have them from a space, whether it's love of meeting somebody or heartbreak, you're having it from a space of openness. You're letting it be permeable. You're letting it breathe through you. And as you breathe it in your space, you're also going to breathe it out. So you're not attaching to it. You're kind of keeping it ebbing and flowing, moving inwards and outwards. We're trying not to constrict because when we're willing to engage in experience relationships with others rather than erecting heart walls, we stop sort of constricting our space, right? We're not working with blockages. We're being open and honest. If something doesn't work out between someone and yourself, you're going to be okay with that because you understand that it's just a lesson on your life path. And you're not going to hold on to it for dear life like it's the last experience on earth you're going to have, because you're giving yourself permission to be transparent, to be malleable, and allowing the experiences to come in and come out. Similar to like what we did in the second chakra, where we focused on water and we allowed the water to flow. Here we're allowing, if we consider the wind, to come through us, to move through us, and to move away from us. So we're using earth elements to remind us of letting go, of releasing, and of not attaching. Because usually when we attach, we have sort of constructs of codependency or neediness where we're not, or we don't feel like we're capable of, that's probably a better way of saying it, to actually do something on our own because we don't have enough support for ourselves, right? So that's why we focus on love of self first. We want to work on living from the heart center and becoming a conduit and a connection to the divinity of all that is. So it's constantly moving in and through us. When we do meditations, we're bringing it in through our seventh chakra, which is the crown, for those of you that don't know what the seventh is. And we're just bringing cosmic energy through our space, connecting that sort of universal source energy with our earth energy. And we're allowing that to circulate through our auric field because innately that's who we are. We're beings of the earth and we're also beings of the universe. So embracing both of those within the heart really creates a sense of sanctuary and unity. And this allows the permission to just flow like air. Let the experience come in and let the experience go out. Let it move. Try not to make anything solid or structural. And when we begin to become open to having experiences and letting ourselves actually fully receive the experience, right? Like wholly, solid, we're letting ourselves sense everything that's happening in and around us. We can allow that space to be. And what that teaches us is boundaries, because as we allow ourselves to be in our heart space, we're also letting others be themselves. And we're not really saying we have an agenda or we want something from that person. We're saying, I want to share this moment with you and I want you to be you authentically so I can be me authentically. And that way we move together in life, whether it's career, friendships, relationships, intimate relationships, family members, even your pets. You want a sense of ability to allow the other person to be as authentic as they can be, while you too are also being authentic. And there's transparency in that. So try to remember the elements of earth because they teach us incredible lessons about ourselves and our life path. And if you think about a path, I mean, you're on a path on the earth. Your feet are always held by gravity. Unless you're in a hot air balloon or jumping out of a plane, you're eventually going to make it back down to the gravity. But all in all, we're all on our life path. And this holds true for the chakras and the aura that dwell in and around us. Because the actual heart, I don't know if you think about this, but it's a muscle. It can constrict when it's resisting the air, or it can expand. And how many times have you even noticed yourself sort of holding your breath in your day, into your day-to-day experiences? When is it that you hold your breath? Is it when you're feeling a little stressed, maybe a little anxious, nervous, uncertain? Those can be areas where you actually start constricting your heart, constricting your lungs, and shrinking, making yourself smaller and not running off of a higher vibration. But if you immediately allow yourself to have that breath, you'll less likely fall into the fight or flight response that holding your breath can actually instill. So what do I mean by that? So say, for example, there's a stress coming and you know it's coming. Say it's something happened at work and you're just anticipating someone to come speak to you about something that occurred. Okay. So what that's going to do is that's sending a signal like, oh no, I'm not safe here. I'm not safe in my heart. I might have to justify myself or validate myself, or maybe I won't even have that opportunity. So that has you going deep, deep, deep down to your first chakra. And that's all about, remember, survival, fight or flight, food, shelter, water, and action. So your body is telling you once it goes down to your first that you're not safe. And then you're immediately jumping into a fight or flight state, whether your first chakra goes into surplus, right, where it's not settled, or it goes into shortage where it's as small as a fig, you're going to feel stress and you're going to constrict that in your lungs. You're going to feel it in your back, upper shoulder region, because that's where we also hold stress when we don't want people to see it. And it's going to also affect your second and third chakra. It's going to start creating this energy that's going to be like rapidly moving from fourth to first, maybe even down to your 10th, because you're creating that fight or flight response. So the only way you can control that is through your breath, through your conscious awareness. And we want to try to stop engaging in that first chakra, because the signals that it sends to the heart makes you feel as if you're threatened. And the heart, of course, is going to begin to react. And it's going to start sending those signals up to your head, up to your mind, your analyzer. So it's going to start affecting your whole energy system. Where instead, if we know that stress is coming and we know that we're going to have to say, let's say we're going to have our meeting with our manager or our boss, right? You're going to say to yourself, I'm not going to be anxious. I'm going to have this experience. If I have a little bit of nerves, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to allow myself to have those feelings, right, in my second and third chakra. But I'm going to remain calm and steady, because I cannot predict the future. And what happens is when we start trying to predict what's going to happen in the future, that takes us out of our present moment. Anytime we're going from our past to our future, we're leaving our present moment. And that's where, in our present space, is where we can stay calm and steady. Even if it's the feeling of looking over the Grand Canyon, for example, and you're standing on the edge looking down, you're still grounded. Your feet might feel a little shaky, but you're able to hold your space because you're not going to jump and try to predict what is going to happen in the future. And why is that? Because you're going to start trusting yourself, trusting your knowingness, because you're coming from your heart. Okay? And as you begin to operate in this state, and it's from an open heart space, you're less likely to get triggered, because you're trying to come and program yourself into a new space, finding your center, coming from your heart, knowing that you are in integrity and you are authentic, because you're operating from this space, your heart chakra. And when those other chakras below us, right, the third, second, and first, sort of shrink a little bit and stop reacting so much, it allows us to run the energy for ourselves, because we're actually, in a way, applying love of self here, affinity and love for self, because we're saying we're not going to fall into that habit, that belief, that pattern of getting worked up. We're going to stay in our center. We are going to comprehend that we live through a set of guidelines and constructs that we may not be able to control, but we're going to set the tone for our space that everything's going to happen for our highest good, because we're trusting our life, the love of ourselves, and our relationships through the heart center. This becomes the new mind. And just like all the other energy centers, we have to be aware that when this center becomes imbalanced, it creates different survival concerns. And yes, we are here on this earth. We're in 3D reality. We can't zone out constantly and try to live in the fourth and fifth dimension all the time, because we're part of this construct. We're part of this world. So we have to learn how to integrate and understand when that heart chakra is going into excess or deficiency, whether it's surplus or shortage. We want to start to recognize when that's the time. When is the fourth chakra in surplus? When is it in shortage? And that's by recognizing how your system works. So I have a prop here. So if this is our healthy fourth chakra, it's about 6 to 8 inches in diameter, and it's spinning clockwise in our front body. And then in our back body, it's spinning counterclockwise. And if you try to become conscious of when it may become an excess, say you're trying to heal someone in your family, say you're trying to heal your partner, the love of your life, and you're giving way too much energy in this space and it's in excess. So say you're operating 2 feet in diameter instead of 6 to 8 inches. That means you're giving too much of yourself and you're not able to fill yourself up because you're trying to give to everybody else around you. So you need to try to understand when you're giving too much energy or when you're taking on too much energy from other people. So you need to listen to your higher self and your inner voice, because that higher self and inner voice knows what is best for you. Nobody else knows as best as your higher self and your intuition. And once you start operating from your heart chakra, I promise you, you will start listening more and actually falling out of the habits and patterns that you tend to sabotage yourself in your daily life or in your relationships. But we need to know those differences first. So the unhealthy fourth chakra can create unhealthy dynamics in your relationships. You may believe, in a sense, that your partner or your spouse or your child cannot live without you, that they could never survive without you, and that you are the survival mechanism to their life. Now, when it comes to children, of course you were that at one point when they were infants and they were unable to care for themselves. But as they grow older and they become more mature and adults, you no longer need to run that program because they can survive. If you gave them the proper tools that they needed, they should be able to follow their path. But you want to understand that you are not responsible for the path that somebody takes. That without you there, they're still going to move on. They're still going to grow. They're still going to evolve. So understand that we are here to have experiences and relationships to learn about who we are. And that by considering that someone can't live without us, that someone would die without us, is almost like a martyr energy. Right? That's where you're giving way too much of yourself to others. And maybe you're doing that because it's hard for you to actually look within and look at yourself. Many people are afraid, especially during my sessions, of what I might see. But I always remind them that I'm only going to see themselves. I'm only being a mirror. I'm being a hollow conduit, sharing with them their experiences that I see through their lens. I have other lenses, but I can see that transparency. I can see what's going on in the relationships. But we want to be able to understand when we're in surplus and shortage. We want to try to stay in a homeostasis, right? That center space where the central channel is nice and uniform and the chakras are all plugged into each other. You can also use your energy unconsciously in the heart chakra to absorb people's energy. That's called foreign energy, right? Where we want to court everybody we meet. So we have all these cords to our classmates, our coworkers, our family, our friends, because we want to know what everyone's thinking, feeling, saying, or doing. So that way we feel more safe. So we will court people indirectly, unconsciously, and try to get information so that we feel more safe where? in our first chakra. So we want to be very aware of when we enmesh energy with other people. And that's why I call it foreign energy, because it's very challenging to find out when there's foreign energy in your space because it's not your own. You might just feel off. You might feel like, why do I have so much anxiety? I never have anxiety. And then if you think back throughout your day, one of your coworkers probably perhaps could have had a lot of stress or a lot of things going on in their lives. So you actually courted them and pulled their anxiety into your space unknowingly because you were trying to heal them through compassion and love. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but you have to learn eventually how to create your boundaries, your protection, and sort of your energy egg bubble through your 12th auric layer and your 12th chakra, right? That's the last auric layer before you merge with someone else's energy. That way, you know when something foreign is entering your space. But most of us have a permeable auric field where we allow everyone to come in. We become very empathic, or we're constantly allowing people to take advantage of us because we feel like we're nurturing, especially women, right? Like we have to fix things or we have to fix people, but that's not our job. Our job is just to work on ourselves so we can be conscious and live in our awareness and authenticity. And then the people will come later. So you come first, always. Okay? Because we don't want to carry emotional baggage, other people's problems. We don't want to be the Dear Abby to people. And this we want to be very careful of because, yes, we can listen, we can be present, but we don't want to absorb. Because this will be sort of, how do I say, like once you have too much in your space, you're going to get drained physically. It's almost like where people become like a sponge where they're taking on the responsibility and the information of other people. They can no longer actually working on their own healing because they really don't know who they are because there's so much foreign energy in their space. They're always giving too much of themselves. So, and that creates a sort of entanglement energy. And the best way I have to talk about entanglement energy is like when you're taking a walk and all of a sudden you walk into a spider web and it's all over your face. You can't see it, but you feel it, right? It's there. It's so subtle, very fine energy, but it's like you're trying to remove this spider web from your face. And those you can consider the cords where the two become one, where it's on top of you, right? Where it's connected to you. But we want to separate ourselves from that space. We don't want to get caught in the web of relationships. And we want to see this as the method. And I love using earth elements because it's the method of thinking about courting where it's so subtle and so delicate, yet it impacts us so much, right? So another time you might see these chakras in excess is when they're 2 feet in diameter, and this could be maybe even like a little wobbly or like an amoeba where it's an irregular shape and it's no longer a cone, because I can actually see this in my clients where it's actually beyond their shoulder blades. So it's showing me that it's beyond their shoulder width and they're in excess, and here they could be consciously or constantly reaching for information. And they're trying to get as much information as they possibly can within their relationships. And this could begin to wobble because the person starts to move into uncertainty about themselves and about their relationships as well. And these wobbling feelings or these feelings of being how do I say, ungrounded or not centered or out of alignment, those are there to warn you. They're actually to warn you about, listen, Tricia, you're a little unstable right now. What's going on? And that could be the shakiness in your body. Maybe your heart's starting to beat a little bit more rapidly. These are the senses where the senses are controlling the physical body, and that physical body is sending out like a mayday response, like, hey, wake up, take care of me, and that's when we want to be conscious and not dismissive, right? And what's the easiest way to get to consciousness? Staying in your center, staying in your heart center. A great analogy I love to do is, like, I tell a lot of my clients this: wear a pendant that's a little bit longer than the one that I have on, and then just put it inside your shirt against your skin and allow that pendant to touch your sternum and allow that touching, that physical sensation, to remind you of staying in your center, staying focused on your heart chakra. And I love using this because you can actually feel it. And sometimes it might even annoy you, having this pendant inside your shirt. But it's there for only you and only you. No one else needs to know. But you're using it to set the intention in your space that you're wanting change and that you're choosing change. And you're going to have change by implementing a tool, simple tool, just putting a pendant inside your shirt to remind you to stay in your heart center all the time. Because what happens in our day-to-day lives, we can become very unconscious and not present because of what we have to do in the course of a day. So this is a great little toolkit to use in order to remember to stay in your center rather than dismissing everything that you're feeling. We want to listen to the heart. We want to be conscious of what's going on. And when we give ourselves permission to have that, we're really having a beautiful engagement with our higher self and our own intuition. And that's the connection that once you start working on that, it's irreplaceable. Nothing and no relationship can change that or go beyond that. It's just the most beautiful experience when you start trusting your own information and your own truth, where you're giving yourself space to be. Now, when the chakra goes into shortage, my best analogy, I always talk about it, is like a dried up fig. And here you might experience other challenges, and this could be maladaptive tendencies when it comes to relationships. It could be codependency. It could be contingencies, contracts that are not even written contracts. They're just suggested that you expect your partner to give you A, B, C, and D. And this is where people will start demanding or dictating what they deserve or feel they deserve to have from their partners, or what they need in order to feel safe. And again, how can you do that for yourself? But when it's in shortage, these people are constantly dealing with a lack of self-worth. They're constantly seeking validation from others because they're facing imbalances, insecurities, and their energy field, the auric field, right, is shaky. It's saying that it doesn't feel stable. So it's sort of like wavy instead of smooth. So here, every time they hit a wave in their auric field, there can be feelings of fear, rejection, insecurity, vulnerability, safety, you name it. And it's touching the auric field. And remember, it goes through the auric field and makes its way to the chakra. So, and then it manifests in the physical body. So we want to understand how it operates when it's in shortage. That's usually like a weakness feeling or an invalidation feeling. And this is people that might confuse codependency with compassion, where your definitions or your narrative or your story is there in order to avoid your own discomfort. And you can make others feel guilty here, and as if they're not giving you what you need because of your vulnerabilities and your insecurities. And you're always wanting to be affirmed that someone loves you or cares for you because you're not loving or caring for yourself. You're expecting someone else to do that. And that creates a lack of energy in the heart center, where it actually goes inward and shrinks. And that can show up as neediness, or where there's constantly the longing to have something that you don't have, like something's missing in your life. but you're the one that's missing in your life. You. And as you struggle to try to find connection for or through someone else, right? Like you're trying to get it from someone else, this constant connection, this need to be with somebody, you should be in essence creating a connection with yourself, engagement with yourself. And then that way you can find a healthy partner and you both can support each other in a healthy way. As I always say, it's in my relationship series, there's 3 people in the relationship. There's you, the other, and then the person that the 2 of you create. And you want to work and walk together. You're moving together. You may be on a different road. You may be in a different state, but you're doing it together because you're supporting each other from a healthy space, not an unhealthy environment. So both surplus and shortage, whether it's an excess or deficiency, are both draining energy. One makes you more tired. One makes you a little bit more shaky. Maybe your nerves are really triggered. Whatever it is, you're expending more energy than you need to in your heart chakra space because you're trying to access it from a different avenue. It's like trying to take a surge protector and try to plugging into someone else's surge outlet, right? You're trying to get energy from someone else's space rather than getting it from your own. So you want to be conscious of that, because when you do things like this, when you're in surplus or shortage, you're really creating unhealthy cords. And what is an unhealthy cord? Something the size of a garden hose or a sewer pipe, where we're draining the life force energy from someone else, or they're draining it from us. And that, a lot of people call it like an energy vampire. And that's similar to it, like where you're just being drained of your own life force energy. And when you're in a drained state, when there's a leak, how can you hold space for others without overstepping boundaries? And how can you actually create healthy boundaries with another when you can't even create healthy boundaries with yourself? So many people will also create sort of like, how do I say? So they're really bad at creating boundaries. So they'll actually start to impregnate heart walls in their space. And that is from pain. That's a pain body. And heart walls can be found in the physical body or even in the auric field. So remember, we have 12 auric layers. So say I'm finding the heart wall between the 1st to the 4th auric layer. That's a pretty big wall. It's about a foot in front of you. And that wall is telling people to stay away. Don't come near me. And I'm protective of myself. So say that someone instilled this heart wall because they had a bad relationship and it was a bad breakup. So they implant this heart wall to keep people away. But what happens is, yes, people recognize that heart wall, but you're hurting yourself more than you're hurting the other person. Because especially if your heart wall goes around your front body, your side body, and your back body, there could be so much tension in this region that it actually hurts you. You can actually be feeling the physical aspects of the stress. You could feel like an inflamed pericardium. It's like your body's starting to react. You can have lymphatic issues under your armpits, whatever it may be, right? But it's because you're holding that heart wall for so long. And it's just because you don't want to have an experience that really is triggered from your past, right? We're going to the left, in your future, heading to the right. So you're already having the expectation that you're going to have that experience again. So then the universe says in your higher chakras, all right, well, that's what you want. You want that experience again? I guess you didn't learn the first time. So we're going to have that experience occur again. Might be a slightly different or same scenario, a similar person with features that were very similar to your first person's heartbreak. But that's your doing. You're manifesting that by choosing that, by saying, I don't want it. When we use the word want, we get exactly that, right? Got to be very careful with that word want. You can choose, you can wish, you can have, you can receive, you can draw to you, you can desire, but you want to be careful with want. That's a critical word that's like a no-no, because it's just going to draw to you exactly that. What you don't want, you're going to receive. So anyway, I got off a tangent, but that heart wall here is going to create blocks in the system, and I've seen them so many times where I'm like, I have to ask my clients, can we take down the heart wall? And this could be made out of wood, metal, armor, concrete, bricks, you name it, I've seen it, and it's like, and I'll see a hesitation with a lot of my clients, and they're actually afraid to let go of that heart wall. And I try to explain to them that that heart wall is only affecting you. And it keeps other people away from you. And then you wonder why no one wants to be next to you or engage with you. And it's because of that constriction. Other times I'll have clients that'll put their arms, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but where they put it above, high, not under their, in their solar plexus area, but they're putting it above. And they're actually blocking their heart physically now with their arms, saying, don't come near me. I'm resistant. I've been hurt. I've been injured, and I don't feel safe. But a lot of times when people cross their arms in a high fashion, that's also a way of creating like a double heart wall, because they're too sensitive and they have to interact with people in the world. So they just put their hands in front of their heart. But this just blocks energy, and it stops it from flowing. It stops you from learning, and it's unhealthy for yourself more than others, because the more distant you become from you, you're stopping energy, steering clear of people altogether, but you're also steering clear of yourself, right? Because it's stopping the affinity and love for yourself. And you're just left with a wall. And who wants just a wall? We want it to be permeable. We want to feel, we want to experience, we want to share. And we want to be able to have that. Whether it's just talking to somebody, working with someone, even for a short period of time. You want to be able to engage in a beautiful, heart-open space. So the wood, right? The wood of the heart wall can actually be broken apart and dismembered and allowing yourself to have those feelings again. The pain is temporary. Allow yourself to break through it. Allow yourself to have it. Because once you have that experience, you're gaining knowledge, wisdom, insight, understanding, compassion, grace, authenticity, actualization. There's more pros to taking that wall down than there is to keeping it there. And we want to understand that if we don't do this, we're going to be affecting the higher chakras, right? What's the next chakra coming up? Our fifth chakra, communication. So people with a heart wall, almost probably 9 times out of 10 have a hard time communicating or speaking their truth because they're holding it, right? It's like they're choking on the pain. They're choking on the separation that they've created, and that's where people can appear like very mean and tough, maybe stubborn, maybe never wanting change, like where they're afraid for change. Remember, that's the first chakra one that's affecting the fourth. And that can't manifest in the fifth, which is communication and creation. So they're saying no to change because they're scared. They don't feel safe in their own energy field, in their own environment. They're not willing to try something or experience something. It could even just be fear of being hurt again. Something as simple as that. But it affects us on the heart level. And the heart is very sensitive. It's one of the most sensitive chakras that we have in our body, as well in our auric field. And We want to be aware that anything we hold over an extended period of time can cause dis-ease in the physical body, right? Auric field, chakras, physical body when we don't let it move through the chakras. So that can be heart disease, lung disease, arrhythmias. We're creating long-term damage in our heart. A lot of smokers, a lot of cigarette smokers will actually have heart chakra issues where they are trying to keep the pain down, keep the inflammation down, and not be hurt and not let their voice be heard. So they're actually smoking and causing pain, physical pain in their lungs and in their heart. And I'm not judging here. I mean, it's all well and good. It's your choice. But understand how you're using that as a tool to suppress your energy field. And it also holds true with marijuana. I mean, it's anything that's smokable, vaping nowadays, cigarettes, whatever you're smoking, a pipe, a cigar, you're holding down information. How many people smoke a cigarette and then they feel like all relaxed and calm afterwards? But how can you just have that moment, give yourself permission to have that moment and embrace just sitting quietly and having the calmness, the moving inward space? It doesn't have to have an actual action, a physical action impacting our system. So we want to try to be conscious of these dysfunctions in the chakra here so we can adapt our heart and act from our heart space in lieu of our mind. So if you just take a moment and just go inward and just feel like you're calling all your energy back to yourself from the left, the right, the front, the back, and fill up your heart with all the energy that you've given away through the course of your day so far. And allow it to fill your heart center. How does that feel? How does it feel as you're centering and settling into your space, into your heart? How can you begin to implement embracing the energy that surrounds you, that is yours? It's innate within you. How can you have all your life experiences and give your heart chakra permission to experience, sense, and feel the interactions with all that is around you? Can you feel as if your blocks are being swept away by the wind? Can you just let them go and just know them as experiences? Use them as knowledge. Filling yourself back up with your present moment, reminding yourself not to dive headfirst into the past or into the future. Work on creating harmony within yourself by loving yourself, accepting yourself, and that's as you are right now at this moment. Take a deep breath, visualize your heart, inhale and exhale as you move through your life. Allow this warm, inviting energy to move through your auric field so that others can experience what you have to offer. Find a sense of purpose in being authentic with yourself. And then allow people to meet you from that space of authenticity. As we wrap up today's journey through the heart chakra, take a moment to notice how you feel right now. Remember, the heart center is your inner compass. It gives you permission to give and receive love unconditionally and safely. Be gentle with yourself as you embark on your healing journey and take the time you need There is no need to rush this process. Pat yourself on the back for showing up here and now. Honor yourself. Recognize your truth and understand who you are and who you're becoming as your energy being. Until next time, keep listening to your inner self and let your soul and spirit lead the way. Episode 5 is going to be all about the 5th chakra, and it's all about our creation and communication space, as well as connecting with our spirit guides. In the meantime, stay true to yourself, stay authentic, be loving, and enjoy the ride. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me on Energy Work and Healing. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a review. Remember, your energy matters, and your healing helps heal the world. Here, we honor the path of blending spiritual integrity with practicality so you can walk empowered, aware, and aligned. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and keep listening to the wisdom found within.